We are back. We are back. Educational videos. Educational videos. So we're gonna do, more like rapid. It's gonna be rapid. Couple of games. Couple of games. Explaining the moves as we go along. Explaining the moves as we go along. If we could find an opponent. I'm still provisional, I believe. Because of, I have a stellar chest now. Username. We got back to stellar chest. All right, so d4. We can play here. We can play here. We could play here. Suppose here. This is possibly, I'm trying to play King's Indian. Knight c6, e5. All right, e5 here, knight e7. You could castle. Everything looks equal. I mean, this line for white is a little bit passive, possibly. There's better lines in the King's, King's Indian, where white usually, usually slightly better, or better technically, in the highest level. The King's Indian is probably not, like something that people play the highest level, like top 10 in the world, but still very playable opening, right? Throughout, even again, for grandmasters to play it. All right, so castle c6 is f4. Maybe I just want to take on d5. F4. 6. So e5 is interesting. We could make use of this. Square. I mean, he might take with the bishop. Takes. There's three ways of taking, even knight takes. Knight takes, maybe b2 is hanging. Like, let's say, for example, he takes here, bishop takes here, then bishop goes back. So taking with a pawn makes sense. So maybe we could oh, we can't do this. Bishop takes d6. We could try this. So this is actually a way to take this one. Bishop e5. Taking control over the squares. This is how masters play, technically. They take control over squares. Not so much tactics, obviously tactics is always something that's going to be there, but positional means that, you look for squares you can take for yourself, open files, open diagonals. You can see this diagonal, for example, is like something that it should be good for black. So we could play bishop e5. I would probably need the knight on e5. Knight, so you could jump here, jump there. Bishop is also very good. We also have the two bishop pair, so this actually feels like, black is doing okay. He might try here. Maybe it's a one move kind of thing. b2 is still hanging. You want to be careful not doing this. Maybe this gives a weakness. I mean, maybe f5 is okay, but it does give a weakness on e6. We're not achieving anything with f5. It blocks the bishop on c8. So maybe bishop d7, bishop e5. They all feel like they all feel like it's a good moves. There's queen b6 as well, attacking here, but he's just defend rook b1. You can still play queen b6, rook b1, bishop b7. There's also queen b6, knight e4, maybe. So that maybe, you attack the queen, defending b2. So we just play here. This may allow knight b5. That's fine. Knight b5, bishop e5, something like this, defending on d6. But obviously, the two bishops here are pretty interesting. This is diagonal, this is diagonals. This is actually what you need to look for when you're dealing with two bishops. White is still okay, by the way, and I mean, he's not like he's lost, right? But it just feels like black is having some play. The only issue is this knight, to be honest. The knight e7 does not have a way to... That's the reason why the knight belongs to e5, right? I don't want to play here knight g6, that weaken up the king, but it's possibility. In some line, he could try, but he plays here. We could possibly play here. It was also bishop h6, but it doesn't achieve much. We are lining up like this toward the king, right? We'd also play rook c8. Yeah, the drawback here for... I mean, black's still active, by the way, but it's just this knight is not... I mean, I could try to be creative and try like here, knight g8, knight f6. This is actually playable. It's not like it's not. And that's one of the reasons maybe bishop e5, because the bishop was already on g7. The king cannot come there. You could argue that maybe king h8, you know, even with the bishop being on g7, you could still get this happening. He played bishop e2. It feels like maybe he wants to play here. Maybe we could do f5 if he plays bishop g4. I mean, still e6 is a concern, but... I mean... We could play here. I'm, you know, trying to have an active rook on c8. He's maybe playing here. There's also knight d3. Maybe that's a point of bishop going back, knight d3. Okay, he played here. So if you take and here, you know, he's just allowing the queen to get an active square, right? So it's not going to be... He didn't achieve much. He's just helping white. But if we do this, if he takes, maybe knight takes, and knight takes would solve the problem of the knight not being inactive. We put it on f5 at the cost of knight e6 maybe. But knight e6 is maybe, you know, like it's okay to allow in this kind of situation. We just play here, see what happens. Obviously here, right away here, and the bishop's still hanging, so he has to take possibly. You don't want to go like here. So there's no point of taking with the bishop though. Bishop here is kind of a, it's actually a blunder because here, knight e6, that square now is pretty strong for white. You want to do it this way, knight takes, so you're doing two things at once here. You basically activating the knight that seems to be inactive, which is inactive for the past 20 years, right? And also, you don't allowing this e6 become a real weakness because you could take on e6, right? So we take this way. I mean, if he takes here, we could always stick with the bishop, and that's actually very active. There's also rook takes. So now he kind of solved our problem. Rook takes, bishop takes. It's actually a tough call. Maybe the knight gets in e4. Maybe this is the reason why you have to take here, so the knight doesn't come in. Rook here, knight e4. This may allow take though, and this is maybe hanging. This is also hanging after rook takes. So rook takes is the knight. It is under attack here. So maybe he plays here. What's this gonna take? We don't want to lose time. I mean, possibly here makes sense. But you could see the two bishops are. I mean, you could still play knight e6, yeah. But here's the issue. We could still go for an attack, and that's the reason I said, you know, having the two bishops, you know, at the direction of the king, that's one reason. So you could play here, and the idea, if you play here, I could take. There's still mating ideas. So he doesn't have time for this. We also activate our queen in just one move, and we have a threat of checkmate. He doesn't have a way, so we don't have to lose a tempo by like taking on e6. We just simply develop the queen. We have a tempo against h2, which is checkmate. He doesn't have g3. We could still take. And we could eventually take on e6 at some point if we have to. So it's here. I don't think he's going to take here, though. This is mating idea. So he could play h3, and this is actually where things becomes interesting, right? We could also take possible. This mate still. So if this were to happen here, queen h2, with the help of the bishop on e5, and that's one reason why two bishops are pretty strong. This position is wide open, right? It's a holder. You know, you can see this is all like ways the bishop could go to, right? More diagonals for the bishop. So obviously, this means more diagonals means more activity, and especially in an open situation like here, which is the position is wide open, right? So he played here, and obviously I just have to take, right? And still h2. So you cannot take here. There's still queen takes h2 checkmate. So you may have to do it like queen over. There's also like additional tactics. Like I could even try this and bishop e4. I mean, I don't know if it works. Queen e2. You need to keep focusing that tactics usually happens here. The king is actually exposed, right? White king is exposed. So when we see a king that is exposed like this on h1, the pawns are being removed. You just look for an attack, right? More attacks, more tactics. So actually, this doesn't really work. I mean, he could take here and king g1. There's no mate per se or anything. He just played king g1. h2 is still defended by the queen, right? Let's see. He's still attacking the rook now, and it's still attacking the rook. We just defend the rook. Defend the rook from being, like he could take it on f8, and he still can't take here. So you could slow down the position. You don't have to do anything too fast. Sometimes people make the mistake. They feel like a position like this, you have to like go all out for an attack. Like the king is exposed. You have to find something really fast. Sometimes he's just slow playing it. We just have a pawn. We still have the two bishops. We just, it may require you to do some defense, right? When you have a pawn, you don't necessarily have to like win in a couple of moves. Some people just rush things, and obviously, when you rush, the game is technically has more move into it. Like unless you have checkmate, you could see a checkmate here in position, and you have forced checkmate. You have to find it. But a position like this, it's still like queen d2 still defending. And now he's attacking the bishop now. You can see that the bishop is under attack. If you play here, it's queen takes, of course. But we play bishop e5. And we still now lining up for bishop. The other bishop gets involved. You notice that I'm not taking on e6. Because that gonna, that's gonna be like the two bishops are actually way too active. And he's probably want to trade it. So he would probably love to see you trading it for the knight. We're keeping it so we could continue this kind of stuff. So right now I'm threatening this, right? And then he might lose an exchange. And he still have to deal with h2. It's not like he could get carried away and start moving his queen elsewhere. He still have to guard this. There's also the rook at c1 is not doing anything. Also, my rook at c8 is still not doing anything, but you could visualize this kind of stuff. My rook could also get to the. So we have the two bishops, the queen. We could also say, well, we could have the rook here, join the party, right? That's more attacks. Sometimes in chess, you may have all the optimal pieces, but you just have to find maybe more pieces gets involved. Have more pieces involved or find a tactic. Sometimes tactic right now doesn't exist. I mean, there are here, but he's probably going to defend it. But you still probably had to, you need to find more pieces to get involved or, some kind of a tactic. So he gets out of the way. Obviously he does see bishop here. There's bishop g4, and we might be threatening bishop f3, but he just plays rook f1. We go back to h3, so we'll try it. He might try things like this, which is funny, but we're just lining up for bishop f3. So this is actually a way to win the queen. So we are creating some threats. We're not giving him any kind of break here. So this is also come in some lines here. That's actually the main idea, the queen. And he cannot take back here because it's actually checkmate on h2. So if here, it's the possibly here again, and it doesn't solve the problems. We just simply win a queen. So he may get rid of one of the bishops, but at the cost of a queen, right? And even here, I could take, but obviously, you know, when we have a chance to win a queen, we just win a queen. And, you know, knight to e6, as much as it feels it's active, but it's not creating anything. It's not doing much. Okay, rook e4. I have to play h5. Because if I play bishop here, he just take the queen. But we could play here, defending g4. That's actually an interesting move by him. And then we may have rook f2. I couldn't play rook here because he just simply take and then take and take. So something like here, he does take. I take the queen, he takes back here. So I have to play h5, I believe. And then we are threatening here. So obviously, we still attacking on h2. We attack the queen. So by the time I play rook here and he takes here, I take with the pawn, defending the rook on f2. And we still have the pressure on h2 that way. And he might just do this, possibly. But, you know, black position is pretty strong. I mean, maybe this is the only way to continue. Because rook f2 is actually... He cannot play rook f1. It's still the same issue with the mate. We just take and queen h2. But he actually defended bishop f3, which is interesting. But still, you know, still the position... difficult to defend. You cannot move the knight. I guess if you go for something like here, which doesn't make sense. He's still rook f2 anyway, but actually here it's rook takes on c1. So the idea is rook here. I mean, maybe rook c2. Yeah, he just simply takes. You can take with the queen, but I'm just still looking at rook f2. I'm still creating threats. So you can see how I'm playing. I'm not... I mean, technically, queen takes is okay because you're up material. You can just trade queens. But I'm just looking for the attack still happening on rook f2. And he missed it, rook f2. And if he takes here, it's checkmate on h2. So that's maybe resignation here. He just simply loses a queen, and the attack's still happening. And the idea is here, the queen have nowhere to go. Queen e4, queen takes h2, checkmate, or rook takes h2, checkmate. He doesn't want to resign, right? It's funny that people doesn't resign this kind of stuff because, you know, he has 5 seconds and, you know, it's not like, you know, this potential that you could disconnect or something and you win on time, but it's not a way to, to go for that. Any moves work. I mean, maybe something like here. So there's no way you can defend this. This is resignation, probably more precise. All right, we won. Somebody else. I believe I'm still provisional, as I mentioned. Did not play enough rapid. Actually, this guy maybe a little bit too low. We could probably need somebody like close to my rating as much as possible. Something like this. So this is more reasonable so we could play a competitive game, right? Yeah. 2 years ago, okay. So I've been playing the French. I do sometimes change openings online, and I'm not serious about openings when it comes to blitz schemes, even rapid. So my opinion about openings are, it's not going to take you over the top or anything. And ever since I played the French, people do the exchange variation of the French, which is actually, it's not that, it's pretty boring. I mean, it's like a way of saying I want an equal position. And white doesn't really get the activity he wants, right? So it's kind of boring. Let me see. C4. I could even take here. So, openings really matters when you develop a style. Let's say you're a positional player. So you probably need a coach to tell you what to do when you're picking an opening for your style. And you play like you're a positional player and you're playing a tactical opening. It doesn't make sense, right? It's not going to help you. You may play the opening very well, but it doesn't fit your style. Like you're not performing very well. So obviously that's where opening matters. So this is when you're advanced players, designed for advanced players, and it's not designed for beginners, right? Even if you're all the way below 1800, whether FIDA rating or USCF rating, openings probably doesn't matter. I would say 2000 even. It's, openings are not that, as long as you're not playing an opening that seems to be losing, right? People sometimes play a losing opening, and that's going to be a problematic, of course. You don't want to play a losing opening. If you play an opening that it's equalized enough, like equal with white or black, so it's okay. So we have an exchange variation here of the French. It's pretty boring stuff, but so I guess h3, so wouldn't be playing this, so I wouldn't be pinning. I guess h6, so he doesn't pin me on g5. It's very symmetrical stuff, and usually white doesn't, like if this is happening in a classical game, typically this is like heading toward the draw. I mean, one side could still win. I mean, I've seen black win this, in a position like this. It's still, there's plenty of moves to make, but typically exchange duration, when white does it, white doesn't really achieve much. He's not getting any slight advantage or anything. There are better ways you could do it, without the exchange variation in the French. Is plenty of lines where white could try, of course, getting an advantage or slightly better. So we could play c6, stopping all these kind of stuff, counting on the center as well. So d5, queen d3. This is possibly idea. So he wants to get bishop here, something like this. I mean, I could still play things like that. Developing pieces, we may just go to d5. He's still heading toward here. Yeah. I play here, and I have to be careful not take with a knight, because that's going to be checkmate on each side. So you take here, and that's symmetrical enough, right? The pawns are, he still have some ideas. Yeah, like knight e5 and f4 possible. And I'm actually, when I play the French nowadays, I'm not really looking at the exchange variation as like, I'm not studying it, right? Not studying it at all. Like, but obviously there are better lines, right? And so when people play this, especially when somebody who's higher rated than I am, right? You play the exchange variation, you're looking for an equal game, but it, anything could happen, right? Even if it reminds me by the exchange variation, the Slav, but actually white is slightly better. So exchange variation, the French is different. It's probably favoring black a little bit. So he wants to play knight c4. I mean, he wants to play f4 kind of stuff. There's always knight e4. I mean, I could play here f4, knight e4. That's That's one way to play this position. Here, rook c8. I don't think this is a move though, knight g4. I mean, he might be looking at this. Maybe queen f3, queen g3. Actually, queen g3 is actually interesting, so he might be hitting here. Maybe queen f3 though. Yeah, he's looking for mates. It's funny that he's playing this. I mean, I know you cannot take with the knight, this mate, and I know here he could take and I cannot take back. But it feels interesting. And I could take rook e8. You might be looking at g5. Wow, that's actually interesting. Hmm. Interesting. Knight g4. Wow. Maybe I underestimated this plan. I mean, I wasn't even considering rookie here. Takes queen h7, king f8. I mean, here is even... Is it really, like, big issue for me to play like this? I mean, I suppose it's crazy. I remember playing a famous game like this, O2B tournament, and it's... White never get to play, like, anything. We'll give it a try, though. I mean, I'm running out of time, so perhaps... Yeah, I guess it's probably not the way to play. Bishop takes this way to move. But let him do it. Let him do it. Maybe just pre-move it. I mean, or he's probably looking at sacks. Yeah, he's gonna take. So queen h7, king f8. You don't have queen h8, king e7. He doesn't have too many pieces against my king. That's the argument that I'm saying. It's not too much going on. Rook e1 doesn't feel like a big issue, but remember, so to finish the story, I remember playing something like this, OTB, against somebody who's really strong. I mean, I guess maybe it was a master, OTB tournament, master player, master rating. And he never got the attack that he was looking for. I mean, he tried, like, what my opponent is doing. Like, oh, queen h7. He even played, like, queen h8 at some point. But he never... My king eventually got to, like... the king was moving. It did move to all the way to d7. But, you know, it didn't have... he was running out of pieces. Actually, somehow we traded this bishop on c2. And it was funny. This f4 looks very weird. Actually, the reason it looks very weird because I have a jump with knight e4, so he never get to take on f6. This is very, very weird. So maybe I could takes knight e4, and knight e4 is a problem for him because that kind of blockades the attack, and also we may have some attack, like his king could be exposed actually, which is funny. I mean, mine was exposed, but his could be exposed. If here, it may be some f5, so maybe he's still like looking for an attack. I don't want to do this because this may justify the attack at this point because the pawn is moving. That maybe bishop could come in. So maybe I just take a knight e4. May just do it fast because we are losing time. A knight e4. So the knight cannot be really. I mean, maybe try this, but the knight cannot be attacked, and we use it as a blockader for not going to here. But what I mean by king is exposed, maybe I could play queen h4. And, you know, if the king is sitting on g1, you know, you have to wonder if, like, queen here, knight g3, like, this kind of attack could work for black. And especially with the rook being on e8. Because you're looking at something like here, knight e2, rook e2 with queen h1. So that's the reason why I don't like what he's doing. He probably should have went with knight f6, go for the attack perhaps, and possibly he's probably going to be better a little bit, of course. But I felt like it was defended. I mean, I could still defend it. But this one is different. So maybe he could shift ideas. Like, I mean, I don't know if he's going for craziness like this, but maybe he could go after d5. I don't think it's a big deal because I could defend d5. I may just go with queen h4. Doesn't matter if he takes knight g3. This attack might be strong enough. And that's what I mean by king is being exposed. So typically the pawns near the king has to be... There is a reason why the pawns on g2, h2, f2, and the king castles, that's like a way to protect the king, and that's the reason why we tell people to castle, because the king will be in a safe spot. When you start moving the pawns like this, that's a term that we say the king is being exposed, right? The pawns could start moving, or the pawns could be lost, and that's the term that we use to say the king is exposed. So in this situation, there's actually double pawns too. So the pawn was on h, somehow it's get to g4, and the pawns are being advanced enough. So he plays queen h3, and I just have to find a plan quickly enough. Do I have rook c8? He wants to play here, I think. Possibly queen b6, attack here, bishop e3. I have to just move fast. I wonder if rook c8, he just takes on g5. We play here first. Play here. We attacking this. Okay, we play here. He might take. Let's just pre-move it so we don't lose it. This b2 is also under attack, so maybe... Did I have a way to take it? He took... Yeah, he's going for this. We attacking here, so it doesn't have time for a take. The rook is gonna attack. And he has to be careful where he's going. If he goes here, there's a potential bishop takes. Also, the queen's defending h6. So moving the bishop is key at some point. So the idea is here, takes, and e1 is hanging. And d4 could be also hanging. The rook is sitting on e. So here he plays here. All right, we just take. It's a free pawn. We could take here, and we are doing well, actually. If he moves his queen, that's checkmate. So he's putting himself into trouble. I guess here I may just pre-move it. It's to save time. It's a safe pre-move. If he wants to play rook e1, we just trade everything and bishop e3. And bishop f2, we take everything. We're up a pawn, so I guess we could go for this ending, king up pawn ending. That should be winning, though. Should be winning. Because we have two, for, you know, for one. And I'm up a pawn. Yeah, this is winning, I believe. F5. No, that's not a position you could hold. So how you win this is actually get your king in a situation where I push the pawn, you know, trading on g2, and then my king goes to, like, let's say, all the way to this side of the board. And then you collect the pawns and you promote. So you're using this 2 pawn for 1 just to try to trade. So I'm not even thinking about it. I was just making moves. Just find a way to trade. But you just cannot randomly move pawns. You have to do it in certain... Like if you play here, maybe it's here and could get complicated. I don't think it matters what he does here. I think the issue is on this side of the board. So here, so he doesn't push. He's gonna be running out of pawn moves, and then we could play king g4. He might resign though somehow. This one we just take. Yeah, I mean this is 1 minute here is more than enough to win. You don't want to push here. This is actually good. Change the game in one move. The idea is to slow playing it. He's going to be running out of moves. Eventually, he's going to play here or king f2, and then this is where he could play g4. And the king could actually go backwards and go like king e4, so he could change ideas. All right, so he plays here. We just play this. He's going to be running out of moves. Here we just take. We also have b6, but it's not needed now because he just have to move the king. And he resigned. Yeah. He resigned here. He just wants a rematch. Okay, we give him a rematch. This is possibly the last game. But it's a good educational stuff. All right, we're going to play the wing. Is it, what do you call it? The wing? The wing gambit. Yeah, the wing gambit. So I've been playing this in Blitz. This is actually fun. I don't know, e6. I could usually take. I don't know if, I mean, I feel like this is not the way to play. You just have to accept the pawn. So this feels like I take control over the center fast enough. And I'm not gambling the pawn, right? So I could actually play bishop e3, which could get really annoying for him. Here, so he doesn't castle. I suppose he's going for queen h4 and maybe queen c7, attack on c3, something like this. But this is actually interesting. So typically this line or this opening, so the wing gambit is all about like giving the pawn on the wing just to have good center, and you might have some attack. There are some attacks, right? That's a point. But when black doesn't accept it and he goes for something like this, so white gets what he wants without gambling the pawn, and that's actually a bad idea. It doesn't mean that you don't have to take the pawn. You could decline the pawn, but in a certain way that you don't get to play this activity for white. There's ways around it, but not in this line specifically. So he played knight c6. He doesn't. I guess he's gonna go for that. So he could actually defend. I mean, not defend the castle. I mean defending. Yeah, I guess defending is the right word for that. So he could castle. Could we play queen e2? By the time he goes here, we could take a free pawn. I mean, he may get the bishop on c6 and claim some activity, but I mean, I guess pawn is a pawn. Because this knight cannot really go backwards. I mean, if you go here, you're getting hit by h4 and you lose. Did I miss this one? Is this like a bluff or something? I could take knight here, here. I don't know. It doesn't feel like I could take. And he doesn't. He still have an issue. Yeah, he wants to play queen check. Maybe that's has some combo. I mean, maybe have some compensation. I mean, yeah, queen e5. He wants to take here with tempo. So the real question is where I move my queen, because it does really matter. I could play queen b2 or queen e3, and actually queen b2, he still cannot castle, so that's actually one drawback for him. He doesn't really solve the problem. I actually felt like he was going to play knight e7, right? But he did not. So this one gains a tempo. I mean, we may actually... We are attacking here. We are also defending the bishop, which is actually still defended by the knight on b1, right? But we have to move the queen because the queen is under attack. There's also queen g4, which also may complicate things for him. Like, we might be attacking. Like, I'm not defending as... maybe here in f3. This feels interesting because we might try to win a piece. The knight is actually the issue. The knight may not go backwards. As we discussed, like h4. So I'm looking at the same situation. Actually, the knight could go to c5, so maybe he could still defend. Like f3 is what, you know, I was looking for, but he just goes here. The queen is sitting on a5, defending c5. Because f3, if he doesn't have knight c5, the knight is actually trapped, right? h4, and the knight has nowhere to go. But I can still play queen g4. He doesn't have this because I could takes here and queen takes d4. That's actually the issue. And this, if he plays here, I mean, his king is really exposed. I mean, I may just take a queen here and we're looking at mate. And he's sacking the piece, but he doesn't have anything for it. If I play here, he may just defend a little bit, like bishop d7. Actually, here, knight c6. Bishop d7 is not playable because the knight is hanging. So it's here, knight c6. And then he might be looking at knight takes c5. Which actually, I mean, it's still defended. So knight e5 is still not there, but he could actually try like queen c7. He may put some pressure on it. I mean, I'm leaning to a queen g4. There's also here, actually queen e3 also have its interesting idea, because queen e3, knight c6, if this were to happen, then we could go for f3. He doesn't have knight c5, because I could take on, so the queen is covering c5, the bishop. This is maybe a tricky move, queen here, but he has here. So you always have to look over his possible continuation. The only move that he has to play is like queen e3, knight f5. So knight f5 is actually getting a tempo. You defend the piece, you attack the queen, you don't have time for f3. And I have to move my queen again, right? So if I'm forced to move my queen again, then I may have lost the tempo for no reason. So if I play here knight f5, which he might actually do this, it's a little bit different, right? Mate's just straight on e4. We're just going to play here. We are really attacking this one. So usually when your opponent is playing like active play like this, he's sacking for activity, a couple pawns in the way. You may, if you're able to like, you know, to continue attacking, like I'm actually attacking here. I'm just telling him, you know, basically saying I'm not going to be sitting defending. I'm also going to attack. The king is also weak on e8, right? Meaning that he cannot really castle. I mean, I actually find an interesting idea by him that he might actually consider castling long. You know, because he cannot really castle short, but if he's given the chance, he may not be given the chance here. I mean, there are some ideas where queen h4 might be a problem after taking on e4. So taking e4 is key because he doesn't have like g5 or anything like here, eliminating the possibility, you know, defending on e7 as much as possible. He could still play knight f5, so still like some ideas he could still defend, but also when you trade down, he's running out of pieces, and he's actually the one that's sacking. The only issue for white too is my king is not castled, which may not be a big deal because you're up a piece. It's just actually the major issue for me is actually not developed. So if more pieces develop, then it becomes, when you're up a piece, then it becomes clear. Sometimes this is actually a talent. Like when you play chess, sometimes you don't have to develop and win games. I mean... And he's actually looking at castling long. So if I take here, just castle long. So he defend the rook and he gets the king out of this mess. It's interesting idea. But actually, did he forget about f3 though? And that's actually what I meant by creating threats. I was attacking here and also f3. It's still happening. So if he goes for here, as we discussed, the queen is, you know, could take on d4. And if he plays h5, I could actually take here with tempo because I'm attacking the rook. He castles, then he loses a knight. He may have forgot about this idea. I mean, it's hard to play, I guess, for black's perspective. I actually felt like maybe knight f5 was the best move. Possibly. So defending this way, and he doesn't have... I mean, if f3, maybe knight c5. That's a way to defend. So that way the two knights are not being in the same line. That's actually the point. But it's funny that I actually find a move for him. f3, knight f5. There's knight e3. So I'm still have some ideas. We'll give it a try, though. Still here with the idea here. So even I'm finding some ideas for him. I mean, he's gonna find it. It's also knight f5 defending g7, which is key. There's also a bishop b. Oh, that's interesting. That's an interesting move. Did I miss this move as well? I have to take here. So if he takes here, king f2. But this may help me, like, you know, the piece is gonna get developed. I mean, hopefully my knight some point gets developed. Actually, this bishop takes here. This is hanging. I mean, this is actually things are all over the place here. Actually, he had here, and queen takes. May have to get out of the way. He may have knight c2. I mean, this is really... All right, we have to play here. I mean, I might be running out of time. Is knight c2? But I guess what I'm saying, it's here, here, queen takes, his king is... His king is not that safe. He's making it fun, though. He's trying. Knight f5. He wants to play queen b6. Oh, queen b6. How could I defend against this move? Ooh, that's a tough move. The king is not in a good spot. Have to play here. Queen b6, king e1. That's crazy, though. You found some strong idea. It's actually queen b6. I mean, if he plays here, we may have to dance. Queen d5, king g4. This is crazy game, though. All right, he didn't play queen b6. I'm actually shocked by this. I felt like the whole idea is all about this move. I guess I'm still in trouble, though, so maybe... This stuff making moves here. Queen b6. I mean, if he plays here, rook e1. But again, queen b6, he's getting all the activities he wants. This is very difficult. Especially with 1 minute. I mean, this is not about the clock anymore. The position is really strong for him. Queen b6, here, knight e3, and then this is terrible. Well, actually, it lost. Knight d5. Queen is hanging. Knight e3. Nothing is gonna work here. Yeah, I'm just running out of... I don't have enough pieces to sack like this. Yeah, that's actually lost. Nice play by him. Just resigning in a move or two. Yeah, just resign now, resign now. Resign now. All right, folks. We'll end it here. And we will probably continue what we left over So we'll probably have more educational videos coming soon. This last game is actually fascinating with all these tactics. But nice games. Win or lose is part of the game. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. And stay tuned for more videos. Take care.